So starting off, we're watching a pretty average standard McFlurry cup. I still don't have a clear idea of what to do with the lid and the actual cup, but for the spoon I already got like 2 elements that I already know I want to include. I decided to call this project the McFlurry project. I know it's not really creative, but honestly, to me, it's really fitting. So the McFlurry project it is. I started with the spoon. I wanted to add like these sort of cereal pieces that are pretty similar to like Lucky Charms. To be honest, this is not supposed to be a cereal cup, but still I was kind of sort of inspired by that, like charms. I also wanted to add like some type of like plant or green aspect to the spoon, so I added this like liana. The kind of the theme or the concept of the whole cup is like cottage vibes or your grandma garden with some green and planty aspects, and also I want to include like this cartoon vibes. It's supposed to be really colorful. Now to the cup, I had idea of what I wanted to look like, but then I started drawing and I noticed that there was a lot of blank space in the middle, so I decided to include like this figure that would be kind of the centerpiece of the whole thing. I also decided to include some lily pads, which I love how they look. I love so much lily pads. I feel like I could decorate a whole other can with just that theme. I started drawing a bigger picture because I wasn't sure exactly how the tomato was gonna look like, but I wanted it to have like this like different expression. I didn't want it to have a typical kawaii face, so I make it kind of like angry but confused. I also still wanted that the cup had like the charms floating around. I wasn't still very convinced with the tomato figure, so I draw this sort of quirky dog, which I think it looks great, but it didn't really fit the whole theme I was going with the cup. Still, I tried to do it like in a different way, and it didn't convince me, but maybe in a future video I would do like something based on this character. And I added the liana and these waves. So about the cereal pieces, I just didn't want to start drawing blobs and random figures because I wasn't sure of what to draw. So I decided to design each one of them. Which honestly was a really fun process. This is what we're working with. I wanted like the concept to be a combination between like a cottage and maybe a pond or like a pond landscape. This cup has been sitting in my room like for so much time that it's so dirty, I had to clean it up. This is what happens when you try to record and paint at the same time. That left a stain. The base coat, as you can see, it's not a really helpful base coat because it's so thin, but this was just to add some texture to the cup, so it would be easier to just sketch. Here comes my first mistake. That was being lazy, and instead of using a compass to draw the circles, I decided to do it by freehand, which make the whole thing unbalanced, and I made the circles too small. started drawing the liana and also the waves that will be on the bottom of the cup, and also the cereal pieces that will be floating around. It just added like this cute detail to the cup, and this is how it's looking. As you can see, it gives off like underwater theme. So for the base of the cup, I decided to leave it white. I didn't thought about that aspect before, so I wasn't really sure about what color, but because I wanted the cereals and the tomato and the other plants to pop up more, I decided to leave it plain white. Mixing the paint became one of the hardest aspects of doing this cup. I don't know how I managed to create that shades of green and this whole palette of colors of green that I'm gonna show you later, but when I wanted to fix something later on the process, I couldn't recreate the same shade, so I had to settle for similar shades, but I knew there wasn't the same. Moving on from that, it took forever to do this like circle outline, and I don't know if you can notice it, but I was too concentrated on doing it and not messing up that I like painted something I shouldn't have, and I had to put white paint over it, and if you look closely you can see that it kind of looks weird, but you know what? I decided to leave it like that. You gotta choose your battles. For the lianas, it was a layered process. I had to paint first the main stem and then continue painting the leaves, and then again paint over the leaves, the stem, so it could have some type of depth. With the leaves, I didn't want them to have like the typical circle oval shape, so I decided to make it similar to watermelon leaves or cilantro leaves that have this sort of spiky figure. And also I decided to add a tomato coming from the plant. Later on, you will notice that only the tomato related stuff have the color red. This is because I didn't want that the red lose attention with the other colors in the cup. The waves in the bottom of the cup are gonna be this deep blue, and while I was trying to open the bottle, I got caught with paint. That had never happened to me before. This was a really satisfying part of the process. That like angle, like where the two sort of mountains meet, is where the lily pad is going to be. Here I made my second mistake, that I didn't like the shape of that wave, so I convinced myself to paint it white again and do it all over. Although I feel like right now it looks pretty obvious that it's painted over, later on with the other details it blends in. Now with the lily pads, I started drawing them again. I noticed that I had to make it like in a more like oval shape because it was being looked in an angle, so I changed that. And also I started sketching where every lily pad is going to be. This wobbly clip is me trying to show you the color palette of the cup. Here, I thought that maybe if I had the shades on paper, it would be so much easier to recreate, but still I couldn't manage to do them again. For the lily pads, I didn't want them to have the same color of green as the leaves of the plants, so I deepened up the color. Also, this required a lot of layers because the paint was so thick but at the same time thin, so it was kind of hard to layer it without being dry. Adding some details. Painting on the stem. Also, later on, really kind of later on the project, I decided to paint the brim because I noticed it didn't really look good on white. Painting this earlier would have made it so much better. I started mixing this lighter shade of blue to add these bubbles as detail to the blue waves. I'm not sure if there are bubbles, but they add this sort of effect of a pond that I wanted to. I was contemplating to also add white, but at the end I decided it looked better just like that. I also added some pieces of the blue stuff floating around because I think it ties it all together. I also had to make like an improvised smaller painting brush because I only had one. This makes it so difficult to work with more than one color. For the color palette of the cereal pieces, I wanted to have some pastels and also just normal vibrant colors. These colors were supposed to be sort of like galaxy, sort of like fantasy-like, really colorful, really vibrant and eye-catching, similar to this. For the charms or cereal pieces that were on the waves, I had to do first like this white outline because I knew that the colors wouldn't pop up enough just by themselves. This was a tricky process because if I did them like too big, they could look like blobs. Also, while painting, I had to make sure that I color everything so it wouldn't leave like this weird white outline. I feel like I also can make other cups with the themes on the cereal pieces, for example the frog or the bunny. Adding some details. And painting the cilantro leaves and stem. I don't know if you can notice, but I got better at doing lines at this point of the process, and you can see how much thinner that cilantro leaf is compared to the other. Finally, I'm just painting the sort of sauce strip that I draw there and filling in the face details. I love that I choose to do the lighter brown instead of black because it makes everything so much softer. For the lid, I wanted the cereal pieces to be all cluttered up, and also I decided to use the already rainbows or strips on the cup as part of the design because honestly I couldn't cover that up. I also marked which side was gonna be the front side. I decided to add some leaves in the bottom of the lid, so when it's together with the top of the cup, it would form some type of plant or liana. To make the color look better, I also needed to add a white background. While painting the cereal pieces, I had to make sure I didn't put the same color in the same space or too close together. Also, I had to make sure that the shape didn't get lost in the different coats. If it did, I had to fix it up with the details. For example, what's that? That was supposed to be, I think, some type of cat, a purple cat. I noticed that the borders kind of look incomplete, so I decided to add this sort of wavy effect, which I end up loving actually. I felt it added what it was missing to the lid. I tried to make it in different shapes so it wouldn't look like a pattern. And then I just finished the lid, well, almost finished the lid, adding the colors of the rainbow, which I think really fitted the whole theme. So the final detail was painting on this indent that I decided to paint as a lily pad. Starting off with the spoon, I painted several coats of the base coat. And also painted the outline of the liana. This was with the purpose to make it easier later on to color in. Then I continue with the sketch of the cereal pieces and added the wavy effect in both sides. After doing the lid, doing the spoon was so much easier because I already knew which color to use, and also because I make them bigger for the spoon. I wasn't really satisfied of how the lianas look at the end because to me it looked kind of messy, but after touching it up a little bit and adding the color to the cereal pieces, I liked it so much better. I did the same thing to the other side, just adding the final details Also, I'm not sure if I added more strawberries. Oh, the lily pad in the lid. I don't think there's a strawberry in the actual cup. I don't know why I didn't add more strawberries. Finally, we're doing the last step, that is adding the top coat. I have never used Mod Podge before, so I was kind of nervous. So I did a test on a white piece of paper. That was my third mistake and the one that I most regret. The top coat I used was matte Mod Podge. So in the white paper it looked fine, but when you put it on in things that have color, it takes out all the light, and that was exactly the opposite effect that I wanted to. Although under the light it looks pretty normal, in person you can see how the colors dull out, but I still love it, to be honest. That's my only regret. I won't use the same matte finish in the other cans that I'm planning to do because it really takes out all the shine. Oh my god, look at the frog. This is the final result. I love it overall, how the spoon, how the lid and the cup look together. It is exactly how I imagined it. To be honest, I wasn't sure about the tomato part, but I feel like it adds up the element I wanted. Doing a voiceover is harder than I thought it would. Just for that like 20-minute video, it took me for so long. I just get so nervous while talking and being recorded, and because I had to constantly hear my voice, it was such a stressful process. So I just want to apologize for all my grammatical mistakes. I swear I know how to talk. I am still figuring out how to edit and narrate stuff. Like, I'm still not convinced about that intro and outro. So yeah, well, I am still planning to do painting and creative videos. Like, I'm thinking of doing another painting cup and some videos using clay and journaling, etc. And also I'm planning to do or to film some TikToks or short videos about the in-between process. So stick around if you like that. Anyways, take care and bye.